Vai passar voltando, especial Oasis também voltando. O que temos pela frente? Temos o seguinte, temos Noel Gallagher falando sobre Beatles, temos Noel Gallagher desempenhando Beatles ao vivo no banquinho e com o violão, temos um encontro virtual bem interessante, intermediado por esse que vos fala de Bonovox e Noel Gallagher, um falando do outro, uma exclusividade. E nós começamos em grande estilo com Noel Gallagher falando de uma coisa que eles entendem muito, o assédio dos paparazzi. Batemos um papo com Noel Gallagher.
Yeah, well, you have to get used to it, because once it's there, it doesn't really go away. And if it did go away, it'd mean that you weren't very popular anymore, so it's just part of the job, you know. I mean, it's, in an ideal world, it'd be nice to just go about your business and do your job and not have any intrusions from the press, but in the real world, I'm afraid that's just not the way it is, you know. You can't be in a big, successful band and not, you know, and not be followed around by paparazzi. That's just the way it is.
Apart from the paparazzi, it seems that you actually enjoy the whole music press thing, because it's not that you sort of avoid them, you're always sort of reviewing singles or interviews.
Well, it's, you know, it's something to, I mean, you can have fun with it, but I mean, we tend to wind journalists up a lot, just tell them as much lies as we can, really, and most of the time they believe us. I mean, sometimes we get into trouble in the press, but it's not good fun at the end of the day.
Well, I think that Bono talked to us and he mentioned you in an interview. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we had Oasis out with us and they played some shows with us. And Noel Gallagher was saying, you know, there's only two kinds of people who don't want to play these kinds of shows. They're stupid or they're liars.
When you start a band, you don't start a band to sell 500 records and to play to 50 people in a nightclub. You start a band to sell 5 billion records and to play to 500,000 people a night. That's why I started a band anyway. And I always respected U2 as a band because they embraced the hugeness of, you know, of rock and roll, which, you know, I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, I wouldn't ever like to go back to playing nightclubs again. And then when you meet the men themselves out of U2, they're sort of like you know, pretty cool geezers as well and all that, you know. And they're not the big rock stars people make out, you know what I mean? They're actually quite nice blokes.
Whenever you read something about Oasis, it's pretty much unavoidable to read something about the Beatles. There's this sort of very strong connection, whether you like it or not, and so people sort of point. What do we make of this relationship? There's a lot of respect from your part, but there's also this sort of sense of rivalry between the bands, which is crazy.
Yeah, which is, well, I mean, the Beatles still are our favourite group, but sort of, you know, recently they've started making noises in the press that they don't like us, which is fair enough, because you know, at least they're thinking about it.
And I do appreciate you being around. Help me get my feet back on the ground. Won't you please, please help me? Now my life's changed in oh so many ways. My independence seems to vanish in the haze.
So that was certainly had some sort of unreleased songs, and these songs were supposed to be given to Oasis. So yeah, is it true?
Well, Yeah, I've heard about the story. I haven't seen the actual wording of the story on the internet. But if anybody wants to give me any songs, then as long as they don't want playing.
Feeling down, and I do appreciate you being round. Help me get my feet back on the ground. Won't you please, please help me? When I was younger, so much younger than today, never needed anybody help me in any way. But now those days are gone and I'm not so self-assured. Now I find I'm changing my mind and I'm open up the door. Help me if you can, I'm feeling down. And I do appreciate you being around. Help me get my feet back on the ground. Oh, won't you please, please help me? Won't you please, please help me? Oh, won't you please, please help me? Help me. Help me. Help me. Help. Help. Help me.
O palco está montado. Alto e bom som. As melhores bandas em performances ao vivo. Alto e bom som. Amanhã, 11h30 da noite. Na Casa do Barulho.
Forma de pagamento, gatinho.
Gatinho vai pagar com MTV.
O único cartão com MTV Club. Ingressos para shows, promoções e brindes. Você escolhe Visa ou Mastercard. MTV Credit Card. Dá crédito para você.
Porrada e atitude. Essa é a minha marca.
O quê?
Qual?
Quando?
Quem?
Quiz.
Aqui.
Novo LM, 14 cigarros. O primeiro com embalagem light e preço light. Novo LM, 14 cigarros.
O Ministério da Saúde adverte: fumar pode causar doenças do coração e derrame cerebral.
Poucas coisas, como um pequeno acidente de trânsito, podem mostrar até que ponto a estupidez humana pode chegar. Nesse instante, uma lanterna quebrada ganha nova utilidade como válvula de escape para a raiva de Horácio e Nestor. Suas armas estão sempre à mão. Afinal, eles precisam se defender de gente como eles mesmos. E, é claro, provar quem é o mais macho. Violência. Não passe essa bola para frente.
Estamos de volta com o nosso especial Oasis. Agora você vai conhecer a mãe dos irmãos Gallagher, a mãe do Noel. Temos aí as bandas que o Noel também gosta. Você vai saber um pouco mais do gosto, do que tipo de som ele gosta, mas ele começa falando sobre as inúmeras biografias escritas sobre a banda. Batemos um papo com Noel Gallagher.
There's one. I mean, most of them are written by people who don't actually hang out with the band or have never hung out with the band, or they're just, you know, making stories up from hearsay. But there's one biography. It's called Getting High by Paolo Hewitt. He's on the road with us all the time, so he just writes about his adventures with us on the road. But I mean, there'll only ever be one official book, and that'll be mine, I suppose. And until I write that, then. But you know, I don't mind it. I mean, it's funny to read these books and these stories.
I actually read any of these books.
No, I mean, I've read bits and pieces, but I'm not really a reader, to be quite honest with you. I read magazines more than I read books. But you know, they're there, aren't they? You know, they're for people to read, so people should make their own mind. I mean, I think people should read all the books and then make their own minds up about what it is they're trying to make their minds up about.
Without my education, I'll never find the words to say. With all the things on in my mind, and I wanna be there when you're coming down, and I wanna be there when you hit the ground. So don't go away. Say what you say, but say that you'll stay forever and a day in the time of my life. 'Cause I need more time. Yes, I need more time just to make things right. Me and you, what's going on? There's always seems to know how to show the feelings that are wrong.
A couple of years ago, British bands were having difficulties breaking America, let's put it this way, in the past couple of years because of Oasis and Prodigy, things are different. First, I mean, what about this idea of breaking America? Is it something the bands sort of look for in a way they have to do?
Well, I don't actually know what that means, breaking America. I don't know what it means. We sell a lot of records here, we play to a lot of people, so I suppose if that's considered breaking America, then that's cool. But back in England, we're considered not to be very successful in America at all, even though we're out of all the bands that come here out of England, we sell the most records and play to the most people. So, and it's a media thing, isn't it? We just go play, sell records, go on. That's what we do.
What about British bands you enjoy? I mean, it seems that whenever you read something about you sort of talking about bands, you don't mention a lot of American bands. Would it be right?
Well, yeah, because none of them are very good, to be quite honest with you. I like of the contemporary bands. I like Smashing Pumpkins, alright, and Beck's alright. Neil Young's pretty good. I mean, Nirvana were probably the last great American band. But I don't really see that much on MTV that excites me about American music. And it's the same about English music, really. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, like the Verve. I mean, a good band. Radiohead are good. Prodigy are good. The Chemical Brothers. There's a little band called Travis coming through from England. You'll probably be in about next year. They were really good.
Music fan. I mean, what sort of music fan are you nowadays? You're one of the most important bands around. I mean, has it sort of obliterated your music fanhood? You're still pretty much a fan. You get shivers and when you listen to something.
Yeah. Well, the last great album that I heard was the Corner Shop album and the Verve album. But because you're on the road so much, you tend not to you tend not to get all the new releases when they're coming through, so you tend to, so like when you get off the road, you've got to catch up and you've got to go back 6 months and find out what's come out and listen to it, but it's usually not that good, really. I mean, you just end up, on the road, you just end up with, like, you know, your own CD collection, which is like James Brown, the Sex Pistols, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, yeah, the classic ones and that, and you don't tend to listen to too much contemporary music. But it's good to get home and check out, you know, some of the stuff that's been happening.
To be a tourist guide for the Brazilian crowd, if you were to describe Manchester to these people, how would you describe it, and how important is Manchester for you, for the music, Oasis?
Number one, it's where we were born, it's where we got our education, it's where we went to school, it's where our families live. Let me see, there's a place called Main Road, this is the home of Manchester City Football Club, you know, the greatest football team in England, whether you like it or not, they are. And let me see. Apart from that, there's not a lot. I mean, there's a lot of students there, and a lot of nightclubs, a lot of bars. But I mean, I haven't been there for about 5 or 6 years, so I don't really know what's, I don't really know what's going on there anymore. But I like to go back now and again to see my mum.
I suppose if I was honest, deep down, I would have preferred them to stay in Manchester. I would have liked them to have settled in Manchester, but it's a thing that is not going to happen. So long as they're happy, you know.
For you to go back to Manchester and walk around, is it easy for impossible? No chance.
Oh, no chance, it's impossible. We just sort of, we have to go in darkness and get out of the car, go and spend the day with your mum and then get in the car and go back to London again. But you couldn't go out to a nightclub or anything.
You miss this kind of privacy, you miss this, so I mean something.
No, I mean, in London it's easier to go out. I mean, but I like staying in anyway. I mean, I prefer sitting around watching television. I'm not really a nightclub person. I like going to watch bands. Got gigs, but I'd much prefer just sitting at home with the wife and the dogs, watching the tennis. I'll do me watching football all day, do me. Right. I'm a very simple man.
A música como forma de protesto.
Eu sou bem pior do que você tá vendo, preto aqui não tem dó.
Mano Brown, Ice Blue, Ed Rock e KLJ no especial imperdível.
Preto, preto, pobre, cuidado.
O show de lançamento do último álbum que vendeu 200 mil cópias só no primeiro mês.
Você vai acreditar no meu depoimento, dia 3 de outubro, diário do detento.
Especial Racionais MCs, terça, 9 da noite, na MTV.
O Ministério da Saúde adverte: quem fuma adoece mais de úlcera do estômago.
Novos delitos inéditos. Novo dia. Domingo, horário 10h30. Repita, 10h30 da noite. Beavis and Butthead, série 7. Delinquentes à beira de um ataque de nervos. Todo domingo. Na MTV, uma casa em frangalhos. A cultura inglesa traz para o Brasil Oasis, o maior fenômeno da música inglesa. Dia 20 de março no Metropolitan Rio de Janeiro e 21 de março no Sambódromo do Anhembi em São Paulo. Oasis, garanta já seu ingresso. Mais um presente da sua MTV.
O maior problema que você pode ter em casa é alguém que usa drogas. Encare esse problema de frente.